You just take care of the presentation and I will accept all the participants for you.
Sounds fine.
No worries. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But you're doing the introduction, am I right?
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Isha. We'll get started in about 1 more minute.
Yeah.
Good morning, Sybil.
Uh, Erin, can I take control of your screen for a while so that I can control the slides on your side?
Sure. Can you do that? Do I
Yep.
have to let you?
Yep. I can do that.
Good morning, Nishi.
uh,
While we're waiting, maybe in the chat, you could tell me, is it morning where you are? It's morning here, but are you coming? Is it morning where you're calling from? What time is it there?
and you can also introduce a little bit about yourself and your course you are applying for at the University of Huddersfield.
All right, so
Oh,
it's evening in
evening.
Asia. Oh, 10 o'clock. Okay. Oh, wow. It's a big difference, isn't it? 2:30 p.m. Oh
2:30
gosh.
p.m. Oh, right.
So some people are having breakfast, some people are having lunch, some people are having dinner.
Okay, so I think we're just getting started right now. Yeah. Welcome you all. Oh,
I'll
yeah.
admit while you're doing this, okay?
Yeah, okay. So welcome you all to the School of Education and Professional Development. This is a guest lecture, and the theme today will be academic skill support. And we have our guest lecturer today is Erin Conlon, the academic skill tutor at the School of Education. And during your studies at the Huddersfield, you will meet Erin once in a week, where you have a module which is the International Learning Development, where you learned all the languages and the way you need to critically read and writing when you're doing your assignment here at the University of Huddersfield. And so before we start, I want to remind you again. So today we have a section with Erin, which is about the academic skill support. Oh, something was wrong with my camera. So tomorrow we'll have a section with Adrian, which will focus on leadership and why is it important. So next week we'll have Mary on Monday about childhood education, and Sonia on Tuesday about TESOL. So the time will be all the same. It's 9 a.m. GMT. So yeah, it's very easy for you guys to remember the time. And also we'll have the drop-in section as well. So next Wednesday we'll have the drop-in section for the MA education. The guest speaker will be Mark Turu Porcel, and I believe that some of you have met Mark yesterday. On the 13th of November, which is a Wednesday as well, we have Eileen from TESOL. So this is particularly useful for anyone applying for MA TESOL this year. And on the Wednesday of 14th December, we'll also have Erin again, and she's gonna talk and answer in-depth question about academic skills, especially how to do your how to do your assignment effectively when you learn at the School of Education at the university. So before we start, I want to show you a video which features Professor Hazel Bryan, who is the Dean of the School of Education and Professional Development. Uh, Uh, that is the end of the video from Professor Hazel Bryan. And now I would like to uh, leave the stage for Erin then. And I'll be here to assist you, Erin.
My microphone was on mute. Let's try that again. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. And today I'd like to talk to you about learning and studying at the School of Education and Professional Development. Just so you're clear about who I am, my name is Erin, and I'm the Language and Learning Development Tutor. And what that means is I'm here to support you during your studies in any way you need to make sure that you are achieving everything you want to achieve during your school time here and your study time. I was an international student myself back in the day, and I know that it's a lot to come to a new country, adapt to a new academic environment, and that's why there's extra support, and that's my job. So let's talk about really quickly. I just want to know in the chat, could you say hello and where you're joining from today? Just you need the city and the country is all you need. I'll put mine in the chat as well. Nice. It's interesting to see where everyone is. We've already learned some people are, it's morning, some people it's afternoon, some people it's evening. Oh, lovely. So we've got some people in India. Um, we've got Nigeria, Lagos, lovely. Okay, some more Nigeria. All right. Lovely, lovely. And more India. Fantastic. Give you a couple more seconds.
I will try this phone. No.
Guys, please turn off the mic if you are not speaking.
All right, so it looks like we've got lots from Nigeria and India today. Fantastic. It's so lovely to have you. Sri Lanka as well. Fantastic. All right. Well, that's part of the experience when you come to the University of Huddersfield is there's people from all over the world, and it's such a nice, unique opportunity to get to communicate to how things are going differently in different parts of the world regarding education. Um, Now, obviously, that has lots of benefits, but there's also challenges, isn't there? We're coming from different academic backgrounds, different languages, different cultures, different ways of thinking. So it's fantastic, it's exciting, and it's helpful, but it can also make things a bit more challenging than it would if you were just going back to a university in your own um, country. So welcome everybody, and it's fantastic that you're all here. The goal of this session is to help you better understand what study looks like here in the School of Education and Professional Development, including what kind of academic skills you need in order to achieve your goals in your major. I'm also going to explain the support you have available so that you leave this presentation feeling confident that this is what I need to expect, this is what I need to do, and this is the support I'm going to have. So that's the goal. We'll start with studying, then we'll move on to academic skills, and then we'll talk about support. And if we have time at the end, I'll answer any questions you have. Please note, I don't know anything about your particular course and the modules in your course. Please keep your questions focused on how to study and what academics and study looks like in the UK and in the University of Huddersfield. Right, so studying in the education and professional development. Let's look at expectations. A big expectation we have if you join our course is transformation. At the postgraduate level, you should be transitioning away from a student who only absorbs information to someone who can add to and advance the knowledge and the discourse, right? So what this means is that the style of study and assessment, it builds your ability to voice an argument. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. You can see here, there are some dark spaces that have the words all jumbled up. It says, you are expected to read a, can you type in the chat? What do you think I mean there? You are expected to read a. Now, can you rearrange the words? You are expected to read a. Can anyone tell me in the chat? Yes, Sybil, you nailed it. You're expected to read a wide range of material sources in order to, yes, great, in order to develop an, what's this next one? Devison, that's not it. Can anybody unscramble those words and put it in the chat? Yes, Aisha, you got it, great. So you're expected to read a wide range of material to develop an evidence-based perspective about a topic. So the topics and contexts that are important to you and what you want to do after you finish your degree, you will take those, read a lot about them, and develop a perspective. All right, next one. In your assignments, you are asked to explain and defend the perspective you have developed. This is called your get to run? No, what is it? Anybody in the chat? You guys did great with evidence. What do you think? If you're explaining and defending the perspective you have developed, it's called your, begins with A. Anyone? Aisha's the first one to get it. Yes. Yes. Okay, Amala, well done. Yes, this is called your argument, right? We are going to be developing your academic voice, and this is established in the way you, the idea? Got two words here, and sources. Amazing. Yes, interpret. Your academic voice is established in the way you interpret and, I'm going to just tell you, apply. Yes, well done. You're going to interpret and apply sources to construct an argument, right? You're trying to convince people, this is the information. This is what we need to do with it. This is my argument. Great job, guys. Well done. So in your master's degree, you are going to be producing arguments in writing that include a wide range of reading as evidence to support the argument. And you're going to include your own voice in the explanation of your argument. For example, yesterday I was helping a student who's writing about the importance of curriculum for 2 to 5-year-olds and the value of having an actual curriculum. And her argument is Sri Lanka doesn't have a curriculum. Therefore, the children are not being supported. And this kind of thing, she's going to be able to finish her degree. She can go back to Sri Lanka and change what is happening for children aged 2 to 5 in her country because of the information and the theories and the arguments she's creating here. The reason we're asking you to do this is the ability to engage in argument. It transforms you from a passive, bored receptacle of other people's wisdom into a participant, someone who's not scared by society around them, but is actively involved with its interpretation and transformation. And that's the transformation we want you guys to have here at the university. So you will be creating arguments, academic arguments about topics related to your context and your field of study. So just to be clear, what are you going to have to do here? You will not have exams. That's just information, regurgitating information. That's not a transformation. You're going to be mainly writing arguments. You're going to be having evidence-based discussions, meaning you must use scholarly sources to support your claims. And it's going to require independent reading and investigation for several reasons. One reason is it's not possible to learn everything about a topic in class. You're only in class for about 30 hours. There's just too much information in the world for that. Also, especially for education, every context is different. What works for children doesn't work for grown-ups. What works for private schools may not work for public schools. What works in India may not work in Nigeria. So everything has to be contextualized. So a lot of it is independent reading and investigation. So your teachers are not going to give you everything you need. Your teachers are going to guide you in the direction you need to go to make your own arguments. Hope that makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about what you need to do in order to make an argument, the skills you need. So as part of your studies, you're going to have to seek out, understand, and interpret information to create your perspective. Now, there's several skills involved with this. There's identifying what you need to know. This requires autonomy. The teacher isn't going to say, you need to know this, this, and this. You have to identify it. You need to find information using digital libraries, search engines, databases. A lot of it is time management. The amount of thinking and um, reading you have to do requires quite a lot of time. So being an effective and efficient reader and processor of information is very important. And also you need to read with criticality. A very important idea in the UK is that when you read something, this is not a tool giving you facts. This is an author presenting you an argument. They're trying to persuade you. This is why I think something happens. This is why I think it should be this way. And because it's an argument, you can evaluate it. Yes, this is persuasive. Yes, this is valid. This is limited. This doesn't really consider what's going on in Sri Lanka or Nigeria. So you have to be a critical reader, not stopping with understanding, but also interpreting and applying what you're learning. So far, I hope you're following along, because after you've found all this information and have it all in your head, you then need to communicate your evidence-based perspective clearly, coherently, and critically to an academic audience. And there's several skills involved with this as well. So you need to, for example, create an argument. You need to structure your thinking. You need to write clearly and critically, and you need to reference and paraphrase information with integrity. There's no point gaining all this information if you cannot communicate it and influence other people from it. So communication is such an important part of what you must do in this university. The problem is, nobody grows up speaking and reading academic English. Can anybody tell me in the chat, what challenges do you think there are when it comes to reading academic English or writing academic English? Could you let me know in the chat? I can think of about 100. What are some challenges with reading, writing, speaking in academic English? I'm going to share one in the chat now. Yep, Amala said comprehension. Difficult, yes, it's complicated, difficult ideas, aren't they? Exactly, Aisha. Anything else about challenges? Well, there's a lot more challenges than just difficult. I've said complex vocabulary. The topics you're going to be talking about are very in detail and complicated. I'm going to put a couple more in. I'd like to see what other people say. Aha, all right, Amal is adding complex sentence structure. Yes, you're communicating complicated ideas. As well as reading them, you are then restructuring them for your own arguments, and you need to communicate them. And for example, complex sentence structures can be in what you have to communicate, as well as what other people are reading. Interpretation of sentence structure. Yes, again, because the ideas are so complicated, so dense, everything is not simple. Nothing is simple. Even the way it's communicated is not always simple, although there are strategies. Great, yeah. All right, thank you guys for sharing those. And again, we expect there to be challenges. This is a difficult thing. Transformation is challenging but rewarding, right? So there's one thing that nobody's mentioned, and it's a bit bigger than sentences. It's one issue is just culture itself, because all cultures don't communicate in the same way. What's persuasive in one culture is not persuasive in another culture. Have you guys ever heard of high context and low context cultures when it comes to communication? Basically, countries, well, not countries necessarily, but cultures have one of two styles of communicating. High context culture is a bit indirect. It's implicit, it's subtle, it's layered, and it's nuanced. So, with high context culture, the meaning when you communicate, it relies on the context. Who's talking? How old? Any differences there? So you don't just accept the message, you have to read between the lines. I'll give an example. My very first job as a teacher was in Japan, and I worked in a secondary school. And I would ask my Japanese colleagues, hey, can we do this? Why don't we try this? And they would always say, oh, ちょっと難しいね, which means basically it's a bit difficult. And because Japan's a very high context culture, the message was not, it's a bit difficult. The message was, no, no, Erin, you should not do these things. Um, and that's what we mean by high context. You don't, the words don't necessarily give the meaning. You have to include the context and read between the lines. On the other side, there are low context cultures, which are a bit more concise, straightforward, explicit, simple, and clear. So the meaning relies on the words. What I say is exactly what I mean. I come from a very low context culture. And if you say to me, it's a bit difficult, I think, okay, it's challenging, not impossible. Maybe we have to work harder. Okay, let's try a bit harder. We can do it. And you could see how miscommunication happens in these situations. Um, Based on this, just very basic understanding, how about you? How about your communication culture? Could you answer in the chat? Do you think you come from a more high context communication culture or a more low context communication culture? Let me know in the chat. High context or low context? Nam, you're welcome to join in if you like.
Yes, of course.
Anybody? High context or low context? Again, have a look here. Is it reading between the lines or saying what you mean? Oops. There we go. All right, we've got some high context. Low context, simple and easy. Okay. Low context. Low context. Okay, we got some high context. Vietnam, very high context, quite high context, apparently. Okay, low context. Okay, so you can see how we have a mix of high context and low context. All right, Sybil says high context. And it's all relational, of course. Low context. Okay, interesting. And it's interesting because you see people, even from the same country, have different ideas about what context they are in. High context. Okay. Basically, usually countries that have a longer shared history and the people have been in the same place, the same type of people for a long time, tend to be more high context. Also, countries with cultures with languages that have fewer words, so one word can have many meanings, tend to be more high context. Low context are usually countries with shorter histories, meaning the same people have not been in the same place for a very long time. And there's usually larger vocabularies. One word has a very exact meaning. And so in general, you could see that countries from more around Asia, Middle East and Africa tend to have more high context. Latin America and most of Europe have middle context. And as you go into more the Anglo-Saxon languages like Germany, Netherlands, and then into the newer countries like UK, USA, Australia, and Canada, they're quite low context. Um, and of course, these are all relational, and there's high context situations for every country and low context situations for every country. But just in relation, this is how it works, basically. Now, again, this can cause issues. Somebody from a high context culture might think somebody from a low context culture is quite rude, or maybe too direct, or maybe, says things too abruptly. Like there's no like connection with feelings or relationships or thinking like that. And then on the other side, somebody from a low context culture might think somebody from a high context culture is not honest. They don't say what they mean. How can they be trusted? It causes problems, right? Um, the same thing is actually true when it comes to academic English. How about academic English? Do you reckon it's high context or low context? You could tell me in the chat, but I'm just going to tell you, to be honest. Academic English is extremely low context. And the reason is when you are making an academic argument, Nigeria has low context. Interesting, Michael. But academic English is even the lowest context country. The way you write academically is even more so than that. The reason is everyone from around the world has to be able to understand the information in the same way. There's no room for, oh, you know what I mean, or, try and understand what I'm saying. There's no room for that because somebody from this country, somebody from this discipline, they all have to understand the information in the same way. So it has to be a very, very low context. This causes problems sometimes with students and teachers because the teachers are reading in a very low context way. And you might and you can get feedback like, you need more analysis. I don't see the connection. Your argument is not clear. But the students who's writing from a high context perspective says, wait a minute, my teacher is against me. They're not even trying to understand me. It's obvious. I mean, come on. I don't need to say this. It's obvious. And it can cause a couple problems with academic communication. There are a lot of strategies and skills to support the communication to make sure it's low context and very clear for any kind of academic audience. One thing is to make paragraphs as a meal, M-E-A-L. This means the main point. So say that first, make it very direct. Then you discuss your evidence and analysis. And finally, you link this discussion of evidence and analysis very directly either to your argument that you're trying to make overall, or you can link it directly to what's happening next. The idea is you put your main point at the beginning in a very low context direct way, and you link and make connections to whatever you're talking about very, very clearly. You have to use it in words. Don't expect the reader to understand why you're talking about something. You have to tell them why and link it back to how it connects to the overall argument you're trying to make. Also, you need to show your academic voice, right? That's the analysis part of MEAL. So you need to be guiding the reader through signposting, through your words, because remember, low context, you only have your words. So you have to say things like, what this means is blah, blah, blah. This is important because blah, blah, blah. You need to demonstrate critical thinking and show your thinking through your words and the way you build your argument. So there's models to go through that. There's lots to talk about. And to be honest, that is why students come to my class to make sure they are confident and clear about how to communicate academically their argument to be persuasive and effective. Because again, what's the point of learning all these things if you can't use it and communicate it to change the society you're working in? Right, so I'd like to know, how do you feel about your academic skills? And to do this, I'm going to ask you to use your phone or possibly your computer if you're on that. So how do I get out of here? Stop sharing. Stop presenting. There we go. I'm going to go on a website here. Come on. Uh-oh. Sorry, my connection was not good. This is why we have classes face-to-face and not online at the University of Huddersfield. Let me try that again. I'm going to share my screen. All right, please let me share my screen. Yes, okay. So now you should be looking at my screen. What I'm asking you to do is to tell me, how confident do you feel about the skills you need for um, reading, learning, and creating an argument, and then communicating that argument? I'd like you to evaluate your ability in each skill from 1 to 10. So if you go to menti.com, all right, on your device or on your computer, and you put in this code, 773-6532, you can give yourself a score on um, each of these skills. And I'd just like to know, how do you guys feel about your own abilities right now? I'll give you a couple minutes to join. Remember, it's www.menti.com, and the code is 773-6532. If you're having difficulty, could you let me know in the chat? Nam, I can't see the chat right now, so if you could let me know if anyone's having difficulties.
Yeah, I'm still monitoring the chat box right now, so no worries.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to highlight the information for you to join in. We're getting some answers now. So far, it looks like pretty confident in the reading, a bit less confident in using referencing and citations. I think it's really wise to be thoughtful about referencing and citations, because the culture around that is different in different countries. How important is it to cite your sources? When do you need to do it, and when do you not need to do it? I think it's quite wise to pick that up as something that might be a bit different. Oh dear. Let's make sure we go on mute, just because the background noise is quite a lot sometimes. All right. I'll give a couple more, maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. I'd like to see how we are. It's going up and down quite a bit, actually. 1 more minute. It's interesting to identify what people are confident in and what people are less confident in. Okay, well, let's stop it there. Oh dear, the needle is going down. It started at 7.1. We're down to 6.4. And to be honest, it's perfectly normal, this, because the way you study and the way you've been successful so far in your academic life in your country, it may not always work the same way when you go to a new environment. That idea of communication cultures and styles around academics, it can be quite different. So I think it's quite prescient of you to think about, this may be different. Critical thinking, it looks like critical thinking, referencing, creating academic arguments, and structuring your thinking are the main areas where people are feeling a bit less confident. It seems like reading and time management are the ones that are most confident. Hey, great. Well, the idea is you should not be at 10 out of 10 for any of these things. You're starting on this journey of a master's. It's something that you will develop and transform and improve in as the year goes on. But the idea in particular is, let me share my screen again. Uh, 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 uh. The idea in particular is you're not doing this alone, and we do not expect you to come into the school and be 10 out of 10 for all these skills. We know it's challenging, especially to navigate a new academic context. So there's quite a lot of support that's available for you. And to be honest, of all the schools I've worked at, I'd say this one's actually probably the best of support I've been with because there's three different levels to it. In that there's general support, which means it's available for everybody all the time. There's group support where you work in smaller contextualized groups to get support. And there's also individual support. So you with your individual personal needs also have support there to make sure that you are guided, clear, and confident as you progress in your transformation journey. Let me talk about each one a little bit more in detail. So the first one is general. Oh yeah, there we go. Very nice, Erin. The first one is the general level, and that is online through our virtual learning environment called Brightspace. There's a bank of resources there for common student concerns, like videos, websites, and documents. I'll just click you through really quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so you can see academic skills. You go to content, there's a lovely message. But if you go into the content, you can see there's all kinds of information about referencing, criticality, paraphrasing, summarizing, right? Theories, dissertation support, academic language, so many different sources. And in each one, there's lots of videos, documents, um, websites that you can use to help you. Now, the value of this is that it is 24/7. So if you're having a panic attack while writing an assignment at 3 o'clock in the morning, you have somewhere to go to say, how do I reference this? Let me go on Brightspace and have a look. Because to be honest, if you contact me at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to help you, right? So this is available all the time to all students. At the group level, there's the module that I teach, which is called International Learning Development. And it's there to support you in the skills and strategies you need to achieve what you want from your studies, to create those arguments, and to be able to communicate your thinking and transform the society you're in. So we work on things like referencing and paraphrasing. We talk about critical thinking and reading and writing, and we spend a lot of time on academic communication, how to be persuasive and logic-based and evidence-based to argue for change, argue for your perspective in your field. It's also an opportunity for networking and community building because how many times in your life are you in a classroom with students from Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, Nigeria, UK, all together? It's a fantastic opportunity and one of the things that the module can provide you. At the individual level, there's two different sections. There's the PAT system. PAT stands for Personal Academic Tutor, and there's also academic skills tutorials. So a personal academic tutor is somebody who's assigned to you as a personal guide in terms of your academics. You have regular meetings to discuss your progress and work through any challenges you're having with the studies and academic path you're taking. It's an open line of communication and it's personalized in individuals for your particular situation and needs. At this, the PATs are usually different lecturers within the universe, within the school. Um, Academic skills tutorials are specifically with me. Um, these can be face-to-face or online, and there's no limit to how many you have. If you want to come every week and have a chat, you're welcome to come every week and have a chat. And in these tutorials, we can discuss anything you want or need in terms of your academic experience. So maybe you're like, I don't know how to do this assignment. I understand all the words that they're telling me, but I don't understand how it works. I can sit down and talk it through with you and make sure you're very clear about what you're being asked to produce, and how to go about it. If you get feedback on some work and you're like, I'm not sure, and you make some changes, but you're not sure, did I do this right? Have I understood what they're asking? Come to me. I'll make sure that you feel clear and confident about what you're producing. You're going to do a dissertation, which is a piece of original research. And that's a whole thing with genre of a dissertation and the skills involved with that. Again, I can help with that. Anything you want or need. And again, these are no limit. It's at a time that's convenient to you. And again, it's quite personal and focused on your individual issues. Um, you don't have to be doing anything wrong to come see me. It could just be double checking, am I doing this right? Or even just having a chat about the stress you're feeling or the challenges you're facing. I'm there for you, basically. So there's so many levels of support here. And I think that's really what makes me really proud to be part of it, because I do believe we are really supporting students well in their journey of transformation from student absorbing information to somebody adding and to the argument and changing the world that they live in. So the message I want to leave you with is it is a challenge. It is very difficult to make this transformation, especially in a new environment and with a new culture and way of thinking and need of communicating. But that we're in it together and we're not just asking you to come here, sink or swim. It's not like that. You have a lot of support at different levels in order to um, finish the journey and come out the other side, somebody who's able to make arguments and transform the world we live in. Right, so I've talked a lot now. I'm going to stop talking. Does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns regarding what study looks like here at the School of Education and Professional Development? You can put them in the chat. You can ask out loud, but just please remember, I'm not a course leader with MA Education or MA TESOL. So if you ask me specific questions about modules, I probably cannot answer those the way you need me to. So if we can keep it focused on what study is or how study works or what a normal day looks like in the life of a master's student, I'm very happy to answer those. Okay, stop talking now and give you the moment to think. And please let me know in the chat or out loud. Move it to the end. Changing the view because I can't see the chat when we are in that way. Aisha's made the really good point that academic writing is difficult for someone whose second language is English. And you're absolutely right. Academic English and academic writing is difficult, doesn't matter what your language is. Because like we said, nobody grows up speaking and thinking and communicating in this very critical academic way. So you're completely right. And that's one of the things, especially in the group level, um, that we work on is how do you convey your ideas in an academically sophisticated and appropriate way? Because you're absolutely right, Aisha. It is difficult. On the general level, on Brightspace as well, there is information about academic language and how it's done. And if you need language support, there are language support options as well at the university. I think that's a really good point, Aisha. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or concerns? On Aisha's point, if if your first, I mean, if your first language is not English, and even if your first language is English, Huddersfield is in the north of England, and the people in the north of England have a very particular accent. And one thing many students say to me is, "Whew, I have a hard time understanding people here." And to be honest, so do I. I'm American. I'm not from the UK. And sometimes even I, when I listen to people from the north, I'm like, what are you saying? So yes, it's not just academic writing. It's listening as well. Questions or comments? Even if it's just this was interesting or I learned something. Nam says, yeah, he feels the same way about the northern accents. We think in our mother language and translate it into English, and it's difficult to maintain balance. Gurpreet's made a good point, especially when your first language is not English and you are having to transform the thoughts in your first language and produce them in a second language. And one of the challenges is the culture of communication is not necessarily the same. So even just translating the message and then producing that may not be appropriate. So yes, you're absolutely right, Gurpreet. And again, that is why there's so many levels of support. We work on it together in the group session, and I'm available at any time for you to come show me, hey, Erin, I'm starting to write my essay. Here's a paragraph. There's 2 paragraphs. Could you have a look? How's my communication? Is it clear? Is there anything maybe I need to work on? Um, so that's, yeah, definitely help there. I see, oh, Aisha's got something in the chat about speaking. And Aisha, I think I used to be an English teacher. I was an English teacher for a long time, mainly in Japan, Korea, and Malaysia. And my advice I'd always give students who are um, struggling with speaking is it's like playing the piano. You know, if you start playing an instrument, your fingers don't quite move the way they're supposed to. And the more you practice, the more natural and easy it becomes. Coming to the UK is an excellent opportunity to practice because there's no other option. You have to communicate in English. And in day-to-day life and also in the classroom, the way the topics you're communicating about, just by practicing it, it will become, the fingers will loosen up, the tongue will loosen up, and it will come out easier. So that's another type of transformation that happens during your journey here. It just becomes a bit more easy because you have to do it that way. Thank you so much for sharing these comments, or if you have a question as well. Oh, good. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, so it sounds like you feel a bit relieved. And let's be clear. It's going to be difficult. I don't want you to think it's going to be a piece of cake because transformation is always difficult. It has to be challenging in order to do that and to transform you. But yes, you should feel confident that you will be supported on many levels to make sure that you do the best for yourself and do the best you can do. Thanks, Amala. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sybil, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it wasn't a waste of anybody's time. um, does anybody else have anything else? Nam, let me know uh, how much longer you would like to keep the question and the chat open. But I really appreciate you guys coming and also sharing because I know it's quite personal to share these challenges or worries or concerns. And again, I'm here to help. Great. Okay, good. I'm glad you feel you're getting your confidence. Great. And again, throughout the journey, I'm there. Any barriers in your way, we can talk about how to remove them and move forward and continue. Great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, Francis and Gurpreet. Thank you for your feedback. I hope you do leave this feeling more confident that even if you're not sure what you need to, how well it's going to happen, that you will have support when you're here. Anything comes up in the next, while you're moving on with your lives and maybe the process of thinking how to come over here, if anything comes up in your mind, keep it there because I'm available to have a drop-in session on, I think it's the 14th of December.
14th of December, yeah, it's
Yeah.
14th of December.
So come back, talk to me, say, Erin, I was thinking about what you said, and I'd like to hear a bit more about this, or could you tell me a bit more about that? And I can demonstrate anything you're feeling a bit unclear about. I can try and answer any questions you have. Again, with general study, not with your specific module, because unfortunately there's, well, not unfortunately, but just basically other people are in charge of your MA education or MA TESOL. I'm in charge of your academic journey. All right, everyone. I want to thank you so much for coming today. And I can't wait to meet you guys as well. It'll be fantastic. I always love it. I'm going to warn you right now. I'm horrible with names. So please come back to me and be like, hi, I was Francis from the chat. Do you remember me? And I'll be like, oh, I remember now. But you have to come back and tell me. Love to hear from you guys. All right, guys. My last piece of advice is is get a good raincoat and some good rain boots because it's wet outside. All right, everybody. Thank you very much.
Uh, all right, Erin. So, okay, so guys, I want to remind you that we're gonna have 4 guest lectures on three more guest lecture on Friday, next Monday, and next Tuesday. So tomorrow we'll have Adrian, who is going to talk about leadership and why is it important. And it's also uh, will be at 9 a.m. GMT. So I want you to check the time before you join the sections because, like, I don't want you to like join 1 hour after the 1 hour after the guest lecture. I will send you all the recording, but it's best that you get here on time with the right time to interact with the guest lectures. So yeah, I think that's all for today. And thank you, Erin, and thanks a lot to all of you for being here today.
Thanks, guys. Have a good morning, good evening, or good good night. And hope to see you all next year or next term.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.